Some haters. Yeah, so there's a stack over there.
Rabbi, I had a incident last week. There's a moment on your paper here.
Okay.
My wife was away. And I realized that she didn't. And it was the day before the fast. I realized that she's not going to. She didn't turn off the light in the refrigerator. So thank God we had a refrigerator downstairs because the light goes off. But sorry, let me have that support. But it's more probably if you know the light is going to turn on.
For who?
For anyone.
Right. For you. For a guy, it's okay.
It's okay.
Yeah. Tell a guy to do it. It's okay. Because the guy doesn't have kavanah to turn on the light, and you didn't tell him to turn on the light. So
I'm not going to call from the street.
you don't want
I did.
First, the problem of having a guy do something for you is that he becomes your shliach. But over here, if you didn't ask him to do a davar aser, and he doesn't have in mind to do a davar aser for you, he just has money up in the fridge. So it doesn't matter.
Now from those things, in the hotel, the waiter, when they got the light on top in their rooms, I was the employees, they got something's wrong with my light. And come look at it, they go, my clothes this, and then open it again, there's nothing wrong, it's like, yeah, something more mild. I don't know.
I guess they wanted to save you from doing something wrong.
Something wrong, put it back up.
Okay. So getting started, and there was in yeshiva they have around for Shabbos they keep the food in saying in many yeshivas and the yeshiva in the yeshiva I'm teaching they have a warmer, a big thing they keep all the trays inside of there. It keeps the food warm and it has a thermostat. It has a thermostat, and so when you open it up, it cools down. So it starts. Yeah, so it starts heating up again. So on Shabbos, usually they would turn off the thermostat. It had some sort of Shabbos mode. So the problem was with this Shabbos, they forgot to turn it off, and there was some very gishmak salmon that they made that Shabbos in the warmer. Everyone wanted it, but whatever. So they're asking what to do. So I'm saying so I told them that you can't open up because whatever there's a thermostat. You're gonna make it heat up. So, but the problem was confusing was that what about by a fridge? A fridge also works on a thermostat. And when you open it up, the warm air comes in, and eventually it starts up again.
Although
it's starts cooling things off. And I wasn't sure. I didn't look up this topic so thoroughly. And so I was confused. How come by refrigerators some people are makna, they only up the refrigerator while they only open it up while the refrigerator is running. But a lot of people, I know that, but a lot of people there are people that are makel, they open it up even when it's not running. So I was trying to get down to the bottom of it. What's the problem? Are we worried about a thermostat? Are we worried about the grama, about causing the fridge or the heater to turn on, or are we not? So what's the difference? Over here? So we're going to go through a bunch of dinim of Grama over here. So now a lot of these Gemaras are famous Gemaras. So we're going to try to get to the bottom of what type of Grama is mutter, what type is also midarabanan, what type is also midaraisa. So there's a Gemara. The first Maramakin is a Gemara in Shabbos. It's actually a Mishnah, Daf Kuf Chaf Omer Aleph. The Mishnah is talking about if your things are on fire, if you have a fire in your house, what can you do? You can't put it out on Shabbos if there's no sakanos nefashis. Back then, for some reason, most fires weren't considered sakanos nefashis. Nowadays, basically say we live close together. If there's any fire, you put it out. It usually is considered sakanos nefashis. But in the Gemara, when the Mishnah talks about fires in the house, for some reason, most of the time it's not considered sakanos nefashis. So what could you do? So the Mishnah says, Person shall gedi al gabi shida teva migdal. If some of your furniture is caught on fire, you could take the skin of a deer and you could spread it out over the part that did not burn yet, that is not yet burnt. So that you could put it on there because the skin of the deer or the goat does not burn, it just gets scorched, and then therefore whatever's underneath it will not get burnt, and you're going to save a part of it. So over here.
You can do this on Shabbos?
This is talking about on Shabbos. You can't put it on top of the fire, that will be putting it out. But if this part, half of the table is burning, you could put a skin of an animal on the part that's not burnt yet, because that will prevent the fire from spreading to it.
Wait,
So when you do this, you're not putting out the fire, you're just blocking it from spreading. So even when the fire comes there, the fire won't get put out, it just won't spread to the other side.
you can't put out a fire, even though it's damaging your things?
You cannot put out a fire, even if it's damaging your things. It's a day ice.
Yeah, you're allowed to take out three food for the 3 meals. But that's it.
Oh, wait. We're talking about a fire.
That there's no sakanas nefashis. There's no danger, physical harm. No one's going to get.
There may be damage to property, but not
property will be
people.
damaged, but no one's going to get killed. Practically, Allah if there's a fire, every Rav is going to tell you put it out no matter what you do, because fire is going to spread. It's dangerous. You don't know who's in the building, who's in the house. It's you put it out. But for some reason,
Even if
Mishnah is
it's property
assuming that we're
damage.
talking about fires that are not. Yeah, even though there's property damage. Yeah, so the Mishnah is talking about where there is no danger. There's no mortal danger. So, the Gemara brings another din. What else could he do? So again, this first din is very light, because there's no problem, because you're not putting out anything, putting anything out. You're just stopping it from spreading. The next din is a little bit harder. You could also make a mechitza, a barrier with kalim between the fire, where the fire is, to the place where it did not spread yet. Bein malain, bein reikanim, whether the kalim are filled with the liquids, whether they are not, or that the fire should not spread to the other side. So you can put a bunch of jugs of water, whatever you need, in order that shouldn't spread to the other side. However, Rabbi Yasi argues, and he says you can't do this. If there are new clay cheres, new earthenware kalim which are filled with water, you cannot do this. Why? They can't handle the heat of the fire, and they will break, and the water will pour out, and you're going to put out the fire. So if you put new earthenware kela vessels full of water, it's going to end up breaking, and you're going to put out the fire. This is the shitta. This is the shitta of Rabbi Yasi, but according to the Tanakama, we're not mechalik. According to the Tanakama, it is fine. We're not worried about the water causing the fire to go out. What?
If it breaks, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we're not worried. We're not worried. What's the argument about? So the Gemara jumped in number 1, the third paragraph. The Gemara asks on Rabbi Yasi, what's the problem? We learn out from a pasuk that the only thing you're not allowed to do on Shabbos is malacha, ma'isa malacha. But a grama, if you're only causing a malacha to happen, there's no isser. The Torah's never isser that. So what's wrong over here? Yeah, the Gemara says in the third part, in the number 1, it says you should not do any malacha. Asiya huda asar, the Eibusher is only asar to do something. But grama shadi, if you're only doing a grama, then it's mutter. So what's the problem? Putting a kli full of water is going to break open and spill and put out the fire. It's only a grama. It should be fine. The Gemara answers, you know what Rabbi Yisi's shita is? We take Shadam Bol. He's worried that since a person panics when he sees his house and all his furniture is getting destroyed, if you let him do something that's so close to putting out the fire, he might actually put out the fire. So therefore, we set up boundaries that you cannot even do a grama to cause the fire to go out, because you will end up putting out the fire. You actually end up putting out the fire. This is the opinion of Rabbi Yasi. We passed in the halacha like the Tanakama, that you are allowed to we're not worried about that, you are allowed to put the water over there. So what comes out from this Gemara is that grama is mutter, midaraisa grama is mutter on Shabbos. Grama is mutter. And midaraisa. What's interesting, in this case, what's important to notice is when you're doing this grama, it's not like you're pouring water right next to the fire. There's a hefsek, there's a davar hamafsik. So you see, it's like a few steps. It's in a kli. The water or fire needs to come here. The water or fire will break the vessel, the jug, and then afterwards the water will come out. So that's one of the key things over here that makes it easier to be mutter, because there's something separating between it and the fire.
I would also add it doesn't happen right away.
And it doesn't yet, and it
So
doesn't
it's a
happen right
delayed
away.
reaction. So
It's a delayed reaction, and there's something separating. And
I
there's
think
something separating.
So basically what he's saying is that if I take a hose to all the furniture that didn't get the fire to it, it's not the same thing as this, because there is direct. And putting the water on the furniture, the next one.
Right, because what he's saying, the example he's saying is the next in the middle. I jumped ahead in number one, the middle paragraph. The Gemara says, what happens if you have a talis? If you have a talis or a tablecloth, half is on fire. Can you pour water on the other half? So Rabbi Yehuda says, says name of Rava, that's also mutter. That is also mutter. And some poskim, some Rishonim the Rif doesn't quote this lahalacha because in Shulchan Aruch it's brought down, but it's harder to be makel. Some poskim they'll bring down the halacha because of here there's nothing separating. You're putting the water right there, and when the water comes here, when the fire comes to the water, it will get put out. It will get put out.
But as long as you didn't do it, the Chachamim didn't care that maybe you're going to put it on top of the fire, like they said before, it should be mutter.
Yeah. So the halacha, all these things are brought down that you could do it in the case of a fire. So if you're thinking, so going back to our oven, the thermostat in the oven and the refrigerator, what would you compare it to? When you open it up, you're causing something to happen. I guess you could compare it to eventually, just like the fire will get lit or will get put out. So too, when you open up the fridge or the stove, the motor will turn on or the fire will start. But on the other hand, it's only a grama. You're opening it now. It's going to take a moment for it to happen. First, the hot air is going to come in, and then the thermostat's going to pick up, and then it will send the message, and then it will kick in the motor or the gas, and things will start happening. So the chayda you could tie in is only a grama, and it should be mutter. So the shilti. So what makes it hard to learn our raya from here is this. So place can question whether maybe this is a special din for someone's house that's burning down. We only know from the Gemara that you could do it in a case where your house is burning down. In a case where your house, you want to save all your things from getting destroyed. So midaminatayra it's mutter, and Chachamim didn't stop you. They said it's okay. What if your house is not burning down? What if you just want your gefilte fish? You want your gefilte fish from the oven? Even then,
Why you have to stay far from burning the house?
through a grama. If you're just going to do a grama, over there, Chachamim or Mekel, that you could put a jug of water, and as a grama, it will. Event later, it will break and it will spill out. I mean, I'll tell you this, Mutter, and the Chacham also said it's okay. But maybe in a case where your house is not burning down, Chacham will say, don't do that. Maybe Grama is also midrabanan. So the Shiltei Geberim says he's not sure whether these halachas apply when we're matter to do Grama on Shabbos. Does it apply to all Hilchos Shabbos always, or dafka in this case where your house is burning down? So this is a question, and we'll get back to it soon.
Although, if we're looking at saving the house, it's not the mamo, the gefilte fish or the food is the bar mitzvah. I mean, it's so that should be a different exception.
So because it's a dvar mitzvah.
And certainly, if it's a lot of people, it's not just. So there, I'm just mentioning, the classic exceptions that the Chazal lay out: have sid mamon or dvar mitzvah or sorach rabim.
Right, I'm saying having gefilte fish. I'm saying usually you just want gefilte fish. If you mamish have no food up your sleeve, you won't be able to be mekayim the mitzvah. So the Shabbos, then I guess if you're just missing a few dishes, but you could be mekayim the mitzvah. I don't think that'll be such a big mitzvah to be matter isur derabanan.
But to say that there's a isur derabanan, you have to find a place that should say this is a isur derabanan.
Yes.
You can't find
Yes.
anywhere. It's almost like we're saying,
Yeah.
we're having a doubt ourselves. And we're trying to find out if the Chachamim ever said something like that. We don't. Why should we have a doubt?
So
We
let's-
find that it's something is mutter, is it?
So the Shilta Gibbayim, he's Mesupik, and we'll get back to it. I first want to bring up, we have three cases over here where it's mutter to do grama to stop fire from happening. One is you're putting out the skin, you're stopping the fire from spreading. One is you're putting a kli there with water, it's going to actually put out the fire, but there's something separating. And you have even more lenient case that where you're putting the fire on the kli, on the talus, and nothing's being masik, and when the fire gets there, it will get put out. So these are three cases we have. However, there's
By the way, the Gemara ends over with Rita Mirage in Clemson, if it goes out.
in
Right.
kafsa, yeah, we're not worried. It goes out, it goes out. Yeah, we're not worried. So those are the three cases we see are mutter. However, there are some cases where it seems to be not only it's also this is the Iraisa when you're doing grama. What are they? So one is also a famous Gemara in Beya. The Gemara says there's a story. Ula came to Rav Yehuda's house. He was staying there for Shabbos, and come Shame, his servant got up, and he adjusted the wick of the fire. I think it actually says he wanted the fire to go out, so he pulled the wick out away from the oil. So Rav Yehuda asked Ula, what's going on over there? We know the halacha is if you add oil to a candle, with oil candle, you're chayiv mishum avir. And you take oil out from the bowl with the wick, you're chayiv mishum mechade. You're chayiv for putting it out. So Amar Alei Ula said, "I'll answer him. He wasn't doing this according to me. I didn't notice. He wasn't doing it according to my Torah, and it's not their problem." So this is also a case of grama. He didn't put out the fire, he took out oil or he added oil, and as a result, the fire will burn out quicker or it will burn later. So it's grama. And we know grama is you're not chayav for grama minatayra. How can you say you're chayav over here?
But that happens right away.
So
When you pick up
it's Taisves. So Taisves answers, he says, no, it's not just grama, it is happening right away, like you said. When you add oil, the oil level rises, so that could either make the fire get higher or lower, depending on how it's set up. And when you take it out, right, also it drops, so that could also either make the fire get lower because there's less oil, or make the fire get higher because there's more wick to burn. So therefore it's not just a grama, it's happening right away. Right away you're causing it to burn. So according to Taisus, this has nothing to do with grama, this is mamish shamaisa, you're mamish doing isser. The Rosh doesn't like this. Rosh disagrees. The Rosh doesn't like this because there's a different Gemara that says if you have an egg with a hole in it, and there's filled up with oil, and it's dripping into the oil candle, I guess there's not enough space in the actual bowl with the oil, it will overflow. So you have a different kli with the oil, and it slowly drips down into the bowl where the candle is. So the Gemara also says if you take out oil from the yachai mishum mechabe, and over there the level of where the wick is is not rising or dropping. So
That's what the Ashkenazi read on
Shabbos they read very good. So that Mishnah is over there. So the Rosh says a different shot. The Rosh says that it's a big chiddush. He says if you're taking away something from the actual wick or oil or candle that's burning, your take going to be chayav midiraisa. It's mashma you're chayav mishum mechade. Or if you're adding something, even though it's only happening later, you're gonna be chayav. Like for example, if you have a candle, you have a long wax candle, and you cut off the bottom because you want it to go out earlier, you would think it's just grama. It's just grama. Why would I be chayav? Says the Rosh, it's different over here because grama is when you're dealing with something else outside of the thing that's burning. Like you put water over there, so this water is going to cause the fire to come out. You're not dealing with an actual wick, fire, candle, or oil itself. But if you're dealing with an actual fire, wick, oil, candle, you're taking away from it, or you're adding to it. Even though what's going to happen is only going to happen later, you are chayiv.
Although
you're chayiv mishum mechave or mavir.
In both situations, you're going to, the result will be that the fire will burn less, whether it's dealing directly with the candle or or some more indirect way. The bottom line is, in both cases, it's going to burn less. It's going to burn less.
Well, if you add more oil, it's going to burn for longer.
Right. So what difference does it make if it's dealing with?
It makes a difference with it directly.
No, I'm saying that that when I look at both situations, whether you're cutting to make the candle shorter, or the case where the fire is on one side of the table and you put water on the other side so it doesn't spread, the bottom line is in both cases, the fire is going to go out sooner.
So
why? But we're making that distinction.
it's a big chiddush. L'chayda, he's asking what's the difference how I'm shortening the life of the fire, whether it's from pouring water on the tablecloth or from cutting the candle in half.
Why should the difference make a difference?
So some places want to say maybe the rush means it's only midrabanan. And midrabanan, you're dealing with the actual candle, the actual oil, the actual thing that's burning. Strict. We're more machmir. From the Alter Rebbe, it's mashma. Some it's mashma that it's Alter Rebbe is mashma that it's deraisa. When he brings down the schum of the rush, he says you should be machmir by isser deraisa. Isser deraisa should be machmir. So it's mashma that it's not we're talking about a isser deraisa. So it is a huge chiddush because the chayda it's a very thin. It's a very fine.
Why should you draw that line? I mean,
but that's what it's mashma from the rush. That if you're dealing with the thing that is actually burning, that is actually making the fire, if you take away from it or you add to it, it's a issa deraisa. The Mishnah of the Gemara says chayiv misham avir, the chayiv misham nechaveh. So it's a big chiddush. It's a very fine distinction.
Let's just go back to the pasuk. The pasuk says, "Don't do malacha." Since it's indirect, it's not the same. I mean, go back to the source.
Okay.
That the Chumash is guiding you and say, if you do an actual malacha, it won't be the same. I mean, it could be like that.
Based on what is the case that is for sure. Okay, so we have one case we have in order what case. Okay, so we have one case where it's going to be chayim deraisa according to the rush. It's going to be deraisa if you're dealing with the actual thing. And so, how would you compare this to a refrigerator or a thermostat? Or you're not really taking away. You're just what are you doing? You're opening up the door and hot air or cold air is coming in, and automatically the thermostat changes. But you're not really adding gas or taking away gas, giving electricity, taking it. So there's no issa deraisa over here, according to the rush. So you don't have this problem.
But you're making the machine or not work. When the thermostat goes on, the machine is not working.
It's not you. It's the same way that when the fire gets to the water, when the fire gets to the water, it's going to stop. When the fire gets to the water that you put, it's going to stop. But at the time that you put the water, you didn't do anything. So when you open the door, it's like putting the water. When the thermostat actually gets to start, happened after that, you didn't do it.
Yeah.
If a guy opens up the refrigerator door and somehow you can put a piece of tape or something to prevent it from going on or off or whatever when it's closed, can you do that?
So to have a guy open or close, to have a guy open or close the fridge or oven, it's mutter. Because you're not telling him to do something that's also, you're just telling him to open the door. You're not asking him to turn on. You're not asking him to turn on the thermostat, but he's doing a davar mutter. He's just opening a door. You didn't ask him to do a malacha, and he doesn't have a mind to do a malacha. He doesn't care that the thermostat is doing it. It's a psik reisha. Obviously, it's going to happen. The guy is not chayiv. The psik reisha doesn't apply to a guy of psik reisha. He's not miskaven. You told him to do it. I didn't tell him to do a davar asur. I told him to do a davar mutter. I told him to open up the door. So this is a very famous leniency when it comes to Amir al-Akum, even though usually Amir al-Akum is asur, unless it's l'seret mitzvah or something like that. But you can always tell a guy to do a psik reisha. Davar sheini miskaven. If you're telling him to do a davar mutter, even though a davar asur is going to happen, it's fine because you didn't tell him to do the davar asur, and he didn't have in mind to do it.
Even though it's for your benefit.
So, even though it's for. He's doing a davar mutter for my benefit. He's opening a door. I need to take out the food. He's opening the door, so I take out the food. He's not trying to turn on the thermostat.
Grama, if it was an outright deraisa, it would be asur. But since it's only a grama, we're not.
No, even it's the deraisa. Even if he opens up the oven door, the fire is going to turn on. It's fine because I didn't tell him to turn on the fire, and he doesn't care about the fire. He just wants to open the door to take out the food. Even by Issa Deraisa, it's fine. So
Then we compare.
what?
Yes.
To put the tape on is going to be usher because you're telling the guy to turn it off. Unless it's some Tzedach mitzvah or hefsid or some other heter that would normally apply to Amidul Akum, then it'll be. But in a regular case of Amidul Akum, that would be a problem. To tell him to open and close the door is fine. To tell him to shut the light, so you're directly telling to do davar usher, that will be a problem unless you have some other heter.
So what about
Hmm?
opening the door? So you're saying that opening the door is also mutter for us.
Which door of oven? We're not there. This is for a guy. For a yid, the question is a grama. Is grama mutter or is it usher? So
Yeah,
we're trying to
now
figure out
saying
about
there's a
for a yid.
different standard for a Jew than for a non-Jew by
Yes,
Grama.
yes.
That's a chiddush.
It's by davar shein
Normally, we
miskafin.
have to say
Not
whatever.
by grama, by davar shein miskafin. Even if you want to say that this grama is usher, it would still be mutter to tell a guy to do it.
All right.
We're trying to figure out if it's
So that's a
usher for a
chiddush
yid.
by Amir Eliakum that in these kind of cases it's mutter. That's a chiddush.
Well, yeah, Amidul Akum is only a Rabbanon, so therefore, yeah.
Unless you'll tell me it's a durabanan on a durabanan, and normally we don't go there. We don't go there on gezerah. We have one gezerah of Amir Eliakum, a second gezerah of Rama. So that I can understand as a lumdus that we don't go there on a gezerah. That I can understand.
So this is a little bit off the main topic, but that is the halacha. I'll say it in short. The lumdus behind it, and I'll go weiter. The lumdus behind it is why at least the way the Alter Rebbe explains it. What's the reason you're not allowed to have a guy do something for you on Shabbos? Because he's like your shliach. Shluch is all even though normally a guy can't be a shliach. But on Shabbos, we're machmir that the guy is like your shliach, and if he does a malacha for you, it's as if you did. So it says Alter Rebbe over here, he's not your shliach to do the avera because I didn't tell him to do the avera. He doesn't have in mind to do the avera, so he's not my shliach, and in mail there's no problem. That's the lumdus behind it. The way the Alter Rebbe explains
It
it.
should be the same thing about a deraisa.
Yeah,
To that.
by a guy to tell a guy to do it. Yeah.
So I could tell him to turn the light on according to that.
I want to move on. Weiter.
Well,
Um,
only case of pets.
Let's move on. We have some.
What's the case of pets?
What?
How much money does need to be? I'm not sure how much money you need. 100, 1,000. I'm not sure how much money
Hard
needs
to
to be a
hear
house.
All right. We'll see what happens.
Right?
Yeah, I'm not sure how big the value needs to be.
No,
But
no.
let's move on.
You have to be, let's say, the food will get spoiled.
That is a hefsid, but the question is how much. If it's just one bowl of tuna salad, it's not really a hefsid. If you're preparing for a chasna, then it's a hefsid.
So why your palace is
So-
important on the fish?
So let's we're holding. Okay, so number 4. So there's another case of grama, which seems to be like you're doing a grama, but the halacha is there's a chashis deraisa. It's another famous din in the Gemara and Shulchan Aruch that if you have a candle or a fire behind a doorway, behind the door that leads outside, and if you open up the door and the wind is blowing, the fire will go out. You're not allowed to open up that door because if the wind is blowing and you don't stop right away, you're gonna make the fire go out, and it's you're doing kiva. You're doing it, and it's mashma over here. We're making a gzeira for this. Is a deiraisa, and what's called it's a grama. You're opening up the door, and the wind is coming, and it's blowing it out, and so it's only a grama, but it seems like it's also a deiraisa. So
Can you close the window because it's blowing?
So to close the window or to close the door so that the fire shouldn't go out, that's fine because I'm leaving it the status quo. The fire is there. I'm just taking away something from stopping it. Right? Because if the oven is already on or if the refrigerator is already running, everyone agrees that there's no problem to open it up because you're just preventing it from turning it off, but you're not actually creating a new fire or the motor to start working again. So to close that is fine, but to open up the door and which will cause the wind to put out the fire, it seems like you're doing Issa Deiraisa. So what's going on over here? So the Maram Shik asks even a bigger klutz kasha. There's a lot of malachis that everyone agrees that you're chayiv to do, and l'chayda is only grama. What are they? Baking on Shabbos. You put bread in the oven, and it finishes baking only an hour later. I look like that's grama. I just put it in the oven. The fire make it much later.
I'll think of
Or
you plant a
planting.
seed today.
I planted
planted
a seed in the dirt, and it's only going to happen. Who knows when?
That's a
It's gonna
direct
find
line
much
side in the
later.
ground.
But the dirt I just put in the ground. And later the rain will come and everything will happen. But it's only a grama. What's going on? How come all these cases? I'm chayiv? And so he gets even before that he gets into that, but even before that he says a different word. So in number 5, the Ram Shik says, if you're doing something on Shabbos which causes a melacha to happen much later, so he's talking about some type of, you set up a timer that eventually makes a light turn on. That was a question over there. So can you set this timer on Shabbos that will make the light turn on? So dahainu in b'Shabbos hu meichin, I mean kli hashois. If on Shabbos you're setting up this timer, sha'ayde kach tidlak haner la'achar shah, which after an hour it will cause the light to turn on. Since I'm not sure if this is Isudei Raisa, setting a timer on Shabbos to turn it on. The Hari Ha'ifa, he says it could be, could be it's not. The Hari Ha'ifa v'hamavashel, kiven shneisam davar la'ish. Yeah, because you can't tell me, you can't, even if you want to tell me the light is only turning on an hour later, therefore I should be putter, but also Ha'ifa, someone who cooks and bakes, he puts it in the fire, even the Apal Gav Shah, even though it only finishes after an hour, still the halacha is considered as if you put the fire and the pot, the bread and the pot over there, it's as if you're constantly putting it over there the whole time until it finishes baking. The kol shamayis nimshach havika isa v'chayz v'isa. So the din is, it's as if you're constantly, it's as if you put it there the whole entire time until it finishes cooking. So what's the definition? So what's the definition? What's the hagdara? When do we say this that it does that you're
in other
chayiv?
words, if you took it out of the oven, at what point would you already be chayiv? And you say,
so if you take it out of the oven beforehand, you're going to be putter because you're only chayiv.
how long?
You're only chayiv once it finishes baking, but you're chayiv will not pay for when you put it in. Why is it not grama? So the Ram Shik, the next paragraph, he says this first. He says the definition is mihu zel dafka of ma'isa nimshach. This is when do we say this? Only by a continuous action that starts from the second you put it there. When you put the bread in the oven, the second you put it over there, the act of the process of cooking started right away, immediately. So you started. So it's not grama is you put something there, and the malacha only starts a little bit later. But over here, the act of the malacha of cooking or planting started the second you put it in the second you put it in the ground. The second you put the bread in the oven, that second the process of the malacha already started. So even though it ended up much later, you're chayiv, right? You're chayiv. It's not considered grama. Yeah, so right away the fire was there. The hein shemaska pula miyad. But if the thing that was causing this davar also to happen, meaning the electric current that will turn on the light, is only gonna come in an hour when the timer hits the number. So lavdafka, that's an isudei raisa. See, he's discussing on if you do it on Shabbos. He's discussing if you do it on Shabbos, is it also midei raisa?
But still, you wouldn't be able to do it.
Yeah, he didn't say. Someone asked him the shaila, are you allowed to do it Erev Shabbos or on Shabbos? Even on Shabbos, he asked him, and he was discussing whether if you do it on Shabbos, is it also midei raisa or midei ravana? So he's
still going to be.
He's not saying it's mutter. Okay. Yeah, but the question is it midei raisa?
Right.
So
we're trying to boil down to is opening a refrigerator or an oven with a thermostat. What we have a Gemara that says clearly grama is mutter, therefore you could put barrels of water next to the fire that'll break open and it'll put it out. So maybe opening up a refrigerator is just like that. It's only grama, which is mutter. But we also have some cases of grama, which seems to be also midaraisa. So we're trying to get clear definitions.
The grama here is immediate.
Right.
That's the issue.
That's what he says. Therefore he says it's not a grama. Therefore it's not a.
It is grama.
It's because it's immediate. It's not a grama anymore. You did grama's putter.
But so then it's the absolute awesome.
Yeah, but putting bread in the oven, that's the malacha. It's not
When
grama.
you open up the fridge and the light goes on. The light goes on right away. That's not Grama.
No,
Right. L'chayda, that's not grama.
It's not
That's not
It's
grama.
immediate.
Yeah. The pashtus.
listen, if you have an oven that starts.
But the thermostat, it only starts, it
But
doesn't
that
happen
starts
right away.
later, but the light would
Right.
go on right away.
Yes, yes.
If you have a timer on the oven, they should start in half an hour. If according to this, midiraisa, you could put the bread on Shabbos because it's going to happen later. The fact that you know that the oven is going to start later doesn't mean that you're not allowed to put it now.
So could be, okay, so maybe in a midiraisa, okay, could be midiraisa
You
will
mean
be.
that if you put the food in the oven and then later on the
gonna
oven
turn.
goes on, so the act
No
of
difference in
putting
an
it
air
in the
conditioner or
oven-
lights.
The act of putting the food in the oven is Grama.
But I don't think that's what I'm
Putting
saying.
the
It's,
food in the oven
it's
is
definitely
not,
going to be awesome saying in Rishon and Gimel Alter Rebbe talks about even something that's already cooked, Nisad the Dini of Shia and Chazara, if you could put it in a place where the guy is going to come and later light the fire, is that okay? So even with Shehiyah we have,
What did you say?
and if you think that I don't remember some Achlikas or he said it was awesome. I don't remember all the pratim. But
If you have to watch
yeah.
for Shabbat, and you know another hour is going to finish, are you allowed in Shabbat to use these clothes? You put it half an hour before Shabbat, and you know this like 2 hours. It's finished.
What's the problem?
I want to take the pants of
What's
the
the
shirt.
problem? Why is that a problem?
saying
Not part of
I
the-
saying just from what comes to mind, this thing there are some issues about having noisy things run on Shabbos.
let's
That
assume
looks
that
like
it's in the basement and you
there's
don't hear the
also
noise.
saying there's also problems hanging up. You can't hang up laundry on
Well, it's
Shabbos.
not-
Right, it's a lot of
Yeah.
securing there.
There are other problems.
But there's other problems.
I don't do
The
it.
fact that it was washed, I don't think it's such a big issue unless it's not making a lot of noise and people will think that you're washing laundry on Shabbos. There are other chashashas like that have things running on Shabbos, but it's
Maritime.
but besides for that, the Pashas, I don't think there's such a
Usually
big
dryer
issue.
doesn't take more than half an hour, and so it's drying the first half an hour. You're allowed even to tell a goy to do it for you if you need it for Shabbos, correct? The first half an hour.
Bein Hashmashos.
So Ben Hashmoshes, if the thing keeps on going and stops, shouldn't be a problem.
Right,
Same
there are other
question using the
problems.
dishwasher. You put it on a clock, you let it run the middle of the night when people are sleeping. But then you have technical problems when you open the door, the light goes on, the light
So
goes
there are
off.
other, so I didn't get into,
Yeah,
so let's move, so we have another case of grama, which is something that looks like grama. So again, so by the case of opening up the door, the wind comes and blows out the candle. So based on this Maram Shik, you can understand why it's that Isa, because it's not just the grama. The second you open up the door, the wind is right away coming in. So it's Xeda, they might come to do a Issa Deraisa because it's happening right away. It's happening immediate.
So wouldn't it be better to set up the candles so that they're not affected immediately
Yeah.
by a
Of
door
course.
that's a guest comes in and opens the
Of
door
course.
and you say, oh my God.
That would be ideal. In this situation, the halacha, the discussion, the Gemara was in a case where that didn't happen.
Sometimes you have to be careful with
And-
the condition also.
The person lives
So,
in a very small
one-
shack and, it's like 2 feet here, 2 feet there, and over the door. It's a small house.
And another,
What about you're in a stairwell when you run up the stairs? And then, a lot of these buildings, when you go up the stairs. the
they have
light-
sensors.
the sensor.
It's automatic.
So I want,
That's a big problem.
that's like step 2 of this discussion. Like I didn't fully get into it myself, so I'm not ready. I'm not ready to answer it. And yeah, it's a big discussion. And so next we have another case. There's another case that seems to do you're doing something, some type. It seems to be like a grama, and it's also you're also chayv midiraisa, and it's actually one of the lamatas melachis. Zayda leruach. Yeah, when you take winnowing, when you have the chaff with the kernels, you want to separate it, so you throw it up into the air, and the wind blows it away. So you're not what's doing the wind is helping you do the malacha over here. You're not doing it on your own. And the halacha is saying if one tes malachas, you're chai midiraisa. So it's not like, so what's going on in here? What's the definition? Are you chayiv only if you do it on your own, or also when something else helps you? So this is number 6. The Gemara says in Bava Kama, libav.
Is there.
Hmm?
The wind is there. The second that you throw it out, it's already happening. It's the same thing as the.
And if the wind came afterwards?
Second. The difference would be if you know that in a second a fan is going to start blowing, and you throw it before it starts.
So the Gemara says, honey. So the Gemara says, you know why you're having Shabbos? Because Meleches Machshavas Asra Teira. It's Meleches Machshavas, and therefore your kavanos this you're going to be Asr. But the Rosh number 7 on the other side of the page answers Hasgara. He says it's the sifra here because this is the derech how you do this malacha. This malacha of Zayra, the derech, the way it's done is through Grama. So malachas which are done through Grama, this is the derech how it's done. It's not considered Grama. This is the way you do the malacha, and it's going to be chayav. So it's a whole new Hagdara. So by Zayda, the derech is you throw it up and the wind comes and blows it away, so you're chayim. So it's a whole new Hagdara. All types of malachis where the derech is you do it through Grama. It could be awesome in deraisa. So number 7, he says the hasam malachas nachshavas asoteram. And after we don't have a Grama ba'omal chayim, when you're throwing it up into the ear, it's only a Grama. Still b'hachi chayva teira. Even the malachas a ikar asiyasa idea ruach. Since the ikar of this malacha is done through ruach. Therefore, that's how you're chayiv. This is how this malacha is done. But he says you can't compare it to nezikin of damaging someone else's property. If you blew a fire, the discussion in the Gemara was if you blew a fire and the wind also came and blew the fire more and it landed in the person's field, you can't tell me that you're going to be chayiv over there because that's just grama. Over here, Shabbos is a special din. This is how it's done. That's what malacha is. So you're going to be chayiv. So you can't. So this is
because here this is how it's done. That's the thing.
This is how it's done.
This is a normal process. That's why it's
the process of being zera of the malacha zera is using the wind. So it's no longer considered grama. This is mamish the malacha.
So therefore, in the fish, seems like you're allowed to.
Fish,
because you're not intending to cook it more. You just want to open it. The thing is going to happen, but this is not the way how you cook it more because you don't need it even.
Right. It's not the way. It's not the normal way of turning on a fire. You want to turn on the fire, you do this.
You don't even care about the fire.
Yeah.
You don't even care about cooking anymore.
So l'chayda, we could say grama is mutter, right? The Gemara says grama is mutter. Like you see, all the cases of putting out the fire, and so opening up the fridge it will be okay. So the problem is the Mordechai. One of the Rishonim quotes I think of in Yoel. He says that this whole din of putting grama for putting out a fire, it's a special heter for saving your property. But only in Makim Hefsid. Grama on Shabbos were only matter of Makim Hefsid. But all other cases, there's no Hefsid, we're not matter grama. And the Ramah passes like this in Shulchan Aruch. Some poskim are mefaktek, like the Mishnah Berurah questions it. The Mishnah Berurah is mekel on Yom Tov. He says Yom Tov you could be mekel with grama, but on Shabbos he's machmir. And Alter Rebbe he's machmir sai on Shabbos and Yom Tov that grama is asr unless it's makim hefsid.
But not
unless
what is a hefsid? That's even question.
Right. So how much is it? $50, $100?
$10 would be
for how important it is.
So who said it's important or not important?
Right.
Meaningful lots.
Okay, so you want to eat the fish on Shabbos and you want to have oil at Shabbos and not to have oil at Shabbos for you is meaningful.
That's meaningful.
So
I would think in most cases, if you have other food, it's not considered such a big hefsid, but
no, but if you really want to eat it, and you know what I'm saying, it's not like some things, okay, so you don't eat it, it's not a big deal. But if you were really, wanting to eat it, and now you can't eat it, that's probably a loss because it's relative, really. It's subjective.
Right. So my impression was that it wouldn't be saying you go out if normally this is considered a real tzedek. There's a discussion for tzedek su'uda. Could you have Ramiro la'akim? You can have a guy bring things for you. So if it's a real tzedek, so it's a tzedek. Alter Rebbe gives a definition that you need things for the su'uda. You can't. The su'uda is not going to work without it. You need to have drinks. You need to have stuff. It's just an extra dish that you really like. I don't think that falls into the category. There might be some. I don't think that falls.
Why not sort of a hefset? Tzedek is the mamish needed.
Hefset is bigger than
Seder.
Seder.
If not tzedek is mamish.
Hefset is bigger than Seder. That's my.
No, so in your case, tzedek means that I need that food because that's the only food that I have. And hefset could be even if I don't need it because I could eat something else. I could do something in the freezer and wait until the first I eat it. Nevertheless, I could see it when I have a hefset. So Seirach and Hefset are two separate things.
Right. So, okay. I'm saying yep. Okay. My impression is I'm saying my impression is that it wouldn't be considered a hefsid like a bowl of fish or something like that. But yeah, maybe that's good. That's
There's a difference between sorach and hefsek.
Get a cake
Yeah.
also, even if they could eat something else, but they order the fish.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
lose.
Yeah.
The Shabbos, they get less, less.
So we didn't. Right. We're not getting into that discussion. They get into it, but it's not. We won't be getting out in this one.
You know.
So some poskim, so there are places in Minchas Yitzchak, many poskim are machmir with opening up the refrigerators only do when the motor starts. And the poskim who are makel, what do they rely on besides for the fat? What do they rely on? So they want to. So besides the fact that could be according to some shittas grama is mutter lechatchila, they also want to get into first of all opening up the refrigerator. Are you doing isser deraisa or isser derabanan? What type of isser is it? So, one of the big pieces that I make was mincha is mincha shlema. Shlema is on in Erbach. So he has a huge arichos on this shiloh, really very long tshuva. And see, he tainas first of all the isser is only midrabanan.
Only, but.
It's only if the isser of causing. Even if you want to say that grama is aser, but what thing are you causing to happen? It's the rabbanon. First of all, you're having electricity run. What's the isser electricity? So even if you want to say with the thermostat and having the motor run, even if you want to say like the chazan ish that boina that when you're connecting a circuit you're high misham boina. So he says, but over here, if I flip a switch, then you can tell me you're breaking it or disconnecting it.
Yeah.
But over here, the thermostat is constantly on its own, turning off, turning on. This is how it runs on its own.
No, but it's affected.
Hmm?
By you opening.
It's affected, but the circuit itself is designed to keep turning on and off.
Right.
So it's different than a light switch.
It's designed to work more. I know, but it's designed to work more if you open it up and it causes heat to come in.
Right. So he says it's different. You can't compare it to flipping up a light switch, which when the circuit is on, it's built, then it's going to keep on going. I broke it. This circuit on its own is constantly going on and off. So you can't tell me when I open up the door and I close it to start or stop that I'm breaking. I'm being Abraham Baina. This whole system, by definition, is constantly going on and off on its own. So I made it go off a little bit earlier. Now I did Baina.
That sounds like a grama, not a director. That would be the button, then not
5
the
seconds,
director.
take something out and say leaving the.
Not 5 seconds to make it open.
For a while, knowing that it's gonna cause
I think even that he'll say is not Baina because the circuit itself is
more
meant
like
to
a
constantly
Grama.
go on and off and fluctuate.
Oh.
So as opposed to a light switch, you turn on and stays on until I come and I break it. But this whole motor itself is constantly fluctuating. I made it fluctuate a little bit earlier.
Calling it bonnet, why aren't you calling it the other thing?
Say so.
No, fire.
Fire.
So for electricity, I think the maskana most placing is it's not fire. Electricity itself is not.
fire.
I think in the beginning, placing used to understand that there was like a fire going through the wires and coming into the light bulb. I think when electricity first came out, I think some placing wrote like that, but the facts is not like that. It's not happening. Not because it's constant, because there's no flame, there's no heat.
Constantly channeled. It's constantly channeled and they call it bonnet because you open and close the
circuit. Yeah.
Right.
So there's no issue unless you're dealing with a light bulb, and that's when you have to decide if it's considered a flame or not. But the actual electrical current is not considered a fire. So Shleim so the Chazon Ish wants to say is that you're breaking and opening the circuit is Isra Baina. So Shleim says even over here he thinks the Chazon should be made. It's only there's no Isra Deiraisa. You're going to say there's Isra. Some place who want to say there's Isra Midrabanan of Moilid. If you create something new, like spraying a perfume onto a garment that it should smell good, it's also an abundant because it's like you're making something new that wasn't there, a new smell, or crushing ice to turn it into water. It's midrabanan. It's like you're creating a new thing that wasn't there before. Before there was ice, a solid, and now you made a liquid. So this is rabbanan moilid. So some places want to say that when you make the current, when you hit the switch and the electric current starts flowing, it's like you created a new thing over here. Before there's no current flowing, and now there's all this electricity running around. So he questions what? Moilid, like giving birth.
Right.
Not noilid. Noilid is only usher on Yom Tiv. It's a din in muksa. Over here it's moilid with a mem.
Something new.
Like you're giving, yeah. They sound very similar, but Meilid is only on Yom Tif, and Meilid is even on Shabbos.
Right.
It's Issa D'Rabbanan. So he also questions this, like it's just funny to make up a new Gzeda D'Rabbanan about something electricity that didn't exist back then. But was Zayin is only it's also Mishum Meilid. So Shem Zama wants to say, even if you want to say Grama is Asim D'Rabbanan, he thinks by Issa D'Rabbanan Grama will be mutter l'chatchila. If it's only Asr D'Rabbanan, he thinks Grama will be mutter l'chatchila, and he brings some rayas for this argument. So this is one svara. Another svara that place can bring to be makel is that it's not enough on its own, but you could add it onto the pile. Is that sikreisha the shita the aruch sikreisha the nichale. If you don't have a mind, if you're doing one maisa and you don't have a mind for a davar asur to happen, right? Like opening up the fridge, the light's going to turn on, the light's going to turn on. I didn't have it in mind, but psikresha obviously is going to happen. But what if I don't care about it? It doesn't matter to me. Like the exact case of the Gemara is someone is pulling out plants from the ground. So he's taking out plants. So the shaila is I think the shaila is chay mishum chayfer gumis. He's fixing up the ground. He just wants what he's taking. He doesn't care about the dirt. So the Gemara says psikreisha. The Gemara answers no, it's his neighbor's yard, and it doesn't really matter to him what happens to the field. So therefore he's not going. Therefore he's not chayiv. So the aruch, one of the aruch, he wrote a dictionary on words in the Gemara. And inside his dictionary, you have some chidushim. So he has a big chidush over here. He's under psikreisha. He says that if it's when we say psikreisha you're chayiv, and it's also only if it's nichale, you like what's happening, you want it to happen. But if it doesn't make a difference to you, it's mutar l'chatchila. So if you don't, and where this is brought down in Shulchan Aruch is the wine barrels back then. They would drill a hole in it, and they would stick in a faucet, and when they were done, they would put a peg in it with a cloth to plug it up. So that cloth has water absorbed in it, and when you stick it in, the wine squeezes out and it drips down onto the floor. So is there schita? So it says the aruch, it's mutter because you don't care about the water; it's dripping on the floor. Why you have no benefit? So you don't care about it.
You don't want it.
Say here that's a step further. He's saying it doesn't matter to you. You don't care about it. So he says it's mutter l'chatchila. So this we don't pass on like the aruch, but it's always brought in. If you have other svaras to be makel, you add on the shit of the aruch, and according to the aruch, it's going to be mutter, so you could add it on. So this is one of the big sniff in lahakal that they add on to the refrigerators. Doesn't matter to me if I care if the motor's starting now without here's putting in. You're not thinking about it. I want the food. They tried to add in.
That used to put it on the timer, but when he eats, it should go off the refrigerator, and that's when they ate, and that's what went on.
Okay, so they're like the minchas yitzchak, the place in our mouth there.
On Shabbos mode.
No, years ago. This was years ago.
Yeah.
Today there's a Shabbos mode.
And
hot water room, but also some thermostat. And when you take out water, it cools, and then it causes it to go on. That's actual cooking.
It's like a water faucet.
You're actually putting cold
That's
water
actually-
right away into hot water.
No, when you take out the hot water.
so so there were some more sniff in Lahaka, but let me jump to what you're asking, and not only what you're asking, also with the ovens. Placing them are makel by refrigerators, but no one is makel by an oven, opening up an oven with a thermostat. Why? Because you notice the main yesod, one of the biggest things they're relying on is to begin with the whole Isser is only midrabanan. And it's again the whole Isser is midrabanan, so you have some shit to say that Grama's mutter and sikreisha nichale and it's Grama Isser drabanan and most of the Hatayim are built on the fact that it's only Isser drabanan. But if you're talking about an oven, something which is heating up, it's something it tells something with which is making a fire or urn which is heating up. So she also there's a hot element. So over there you're dealing with a chash deiraisa. So no one's going to pull up these. So all these, once you're dealing with the chashashis that I saw, all these are taken fall
Where
away.
is it, where is
All these
it
are taken
more,
fall away. So that's the difference by refrigerator. It's only according to many places, it's only also abundance. So you have room to be makel. Some places argue even then you should be some people are still not clear. But when it comes to ovens and all these other things, there's no room to wiggle around. That's the same thing. If there's a thermostat, that's a chash iso. I'm not sure exactly how they all work, but I'm assuming.
But there's no cooking possibility of cooking.
But there's a hot element. There's something that's
Yeah,
heating up.
it's keeping it warm, but it's
not cooking.
actually cooking.
Right, but the element that is heating up, it's something is coming red hot.
True, but you
Usually,
should never get to a point where it's actually cooking.
no, but the element that is coming hot, you could be high from a vashal. If you heat up a piece of metal to the point where it becomes red hot, you could be high. Even that, if that's havara. You made it's considered like a fire. So the element that's becoming hot is already a problem. Besides for the stuff that's cooking.
So it has nothing to do with soil and not soil now. Has to do with the chashashis to the right. So you're not allowed to open it.
Right. So even the Rabbanim tell many places want to say to be machmir to open it up only when it's running. But the shittas that are makel that you can open up even when it's not. It's only by a refrigerator, which the chashas mainly the Rabbanim.
So the fire you're allowed to open that heating thing when it's already working.
And it's already working.
so by the oven, when the thermostat's on, you could open it?
When the fire's already on, you could open it
Yes.
because you're not making a change.
And it doesn't
you're just
go on,
keeping it
the
as
oven
it is.
doesn't go on and off. Once it's cooking, it cooks. It doesn't.
A similar question came up was the air conditioners that are on energy saver mode. So sometimes you leave it on Shabbos and it's too cold or it's too hot. So I was saying if you pull the curtain down in front of it, so it's automatically feels more colder and it stays off for a long time. And if you pull it away, then it'll turn on much quicker. So I'm saying if you have a curtain, I'm saying in my house there's a
The
curtain that
bedroom
comes
air
down in front of the air conditioner. So when it's on energy saver, there's a thermostat.
Right.
So sometimes if it's too cold, so you can do is if it's too cold, you could pull the curtain out in front of it, and there's a lot of cold air, so it'll stay up for a long time. So it boils down to this. So it boils down to the same machlokes. And if it's already off, and then you pull it down, and when it turns on, it's going to be colder. So then that wouldn't be a problem. Or another way around, if you want it to turn on, and if it's already on, and you pull it, you open it.
If it's already on, then you can adjust the curtain, the shade, the blind.
But if you pull it closed, if you pull down, you're going to make it turn off.
All right. So don't use energy saver. That's the Azatova.
Have three
So
rooms.
get more
Just in
blankets.
case This one, this temperature, the one.
So get more blankets.
He gets into some other interesting shilas. What about the way the refrigerator works? The way it makes the cold air is there's a gas when it gets heated up, it evaporates, and then it cools down, and eventually that causes through the gases evaporating and becoming liquids again. It creates hot or cold air. So maybe you're being over there on Vishal when that's happening. So he says two svaras why there's no problem, because first of all, Maker Adin, there's no Bishal Achar Bishal there's no Bishal Achar Bishal, even my davar lach, or Machmir by things that are wet. But Midaraisa, there's no Isser Bishal by davar
You
lach.
don't even know
So it's
about
the
it.
same fluids being cooked over and over again. And he says also he thinks before it comes to the shir Yasei let us
Applies to liquid?
what?
It applies to liquid? I thought it only applies to solid.
No, we're making by davar yavish. There's no problem of bishal bishal davar lach, something that is wet, and for sure water itself is bishal bishal.
Yeah.
We're machmir midaraisa
Right.
mikra I didn't know, but the Rama is machmir.
Are you saying that there is?
Mikra din there isn't. We are machmir. Halachos ma'aser we're machmir. We're machmir. But he says midaraisa there's
You're saying that there isn't by liquid,
midaraisa
but midaraisa, but we're not.
we're machmir. So by the refrigerator, you're worried about the gases getting heated up. So he says midaraisa there's no bishal achar bishal. It's a
You're
chumrah.
dealing with the liquid?
It's a chumrah, yeah.
Oh.
It could be this itself is debated,
These are
thing. It's a whole
gases in
debate.
the-
It's a
in the
bishul
fridge?
it's a whole debate in Shinyan Tes. I don't remember all the pratim, but I remember correctly. If I remember correctly, that
Hmm?
the Nikra didn't. It's
These are gases in the fridge?
Opening the door of the warmer. Yeah, so what are you gonna be goyim that you should cook something that midrabanan only you want it? It's you don't want it. Maybe that's the reason for a hefker to open the door.
but there's a fire. You want the fire. You want it to stay hot.
No, I'm taking everything out now. Depends on what you're doing, Kake. If I'm taking everything out, who cares?
But it's
If I'm not
havara.
taking it,
You're saying it's in shechel gufo. It's a psikareisha. Maybe it's in shechel gufo, but
that
it's
stuff is gonna happen right away.
a malacha day nicely. Even if it's a malacha in shechel gufo, we're usually very careful. Even we're usually very careful.
That's good.
Closing the door is good. Let's say that you took out our fish. The go, you open the door. You were allowed to, but, yeah, or you opened it when it was already working. The heat, and then you take everything out, and then half of it is still there, and you want to close the door.
So I think that'd be fine. You're not making anything sour.
Doesn't make a difference whether it's going on or not.
It might go off a little bit earlier, but I'd say you might go on fire, make it off earlier when you close the door.
You make the fire work like in a door last. Actually,
Yeah.
We need the zimun.
You have a minion, right?
I think we have 10.
Yes,
Thank you, Rabbi.
Pick up your hands.